Ladies and gentlemen, there is something sacred about the morning, a silence that speaks louder than words, a stillness that feels like the earth is pausing just for you, but so many of us rush past it. We wake up not with peace, but with panic, alarms screaming, notifications waiting, to-do lists chasing us before we've even had a chance to breathe. Somewhere along the way, we learn to start our days with pressure instead of purpose. And that silently shapes the rest of our lives. The way you begin your morning is not just a routine. It is a ritual, and rituals carry energy. They set the tone for your choices, your emotions, your interactions. Imagine a day that begins not in chaos, but with clarity, not with noise, but with intention. Imagine waking up and greeting the day like it's a gift, not a burden, because it is. Every morning is a chance to become someone new. Every sunrise is a silent reminder that you survived yesterday, that you're here, that you still have time. But we don't treat mornings that way, do we? We stumble out of bed, already behind, already late, already carrying the weight of things that haven't even happened yet. We let the world into our minds before we've even spoken to ourselves. And in doing that, we abandon the most powerful moment we have, the beginning. Because beginnings matter. How you start something affects how you carry it, how you complete it, and how you remember it. To start your day with purpose is to reclaim your power. It is to pause before the world asks anything of you and ask something of yourself. What do I want to feel today? Who do I want to be? What truly matters to me, beyond the deadlines, the messages, the noise? These are not grand questions for special occasions. These are the quiet anchors that keep you grounded, even on the most chaotic days. Purpose doesn't always come from doing big things. Sometimes it's in the small, sacred choices. Drinking a glass of water and saying thank you to your body. Opening a window and letting in light, even when your mind feels heavy. Sitting in silence and allowing your thoughts to exist without judgment. Speaking a word of kindness to yourself before the world gets a chance to criticize you. These moments may feel insignificant. But they are not. They are the foundation upon which your life is built. Pressure will always exist. There will always be expectations, responsibilities, and challenges. But how you meet them depends on how you begin. When you start from purpose, you stop reacting and start responding. You stop rushing and start reflecting. You stop surviving your day and begin to live it. You become intentional with your time, your energy, your presence. And in that intention you find peace. There will be days when it's hard, when the weight of your reality feels heavier than your hope. When you wake up already tired, already anxious, already defeated. Those are the mornings when it matters most. Purpose is not something you wait to feel. It's something you create. It's in the decision to try, to show up, to begin again, even when it hurts. You don't need a perfect morning routine. You don't need fancy habits or endless hours. You just need presence. You need to meet yourself before the world meets you. You need to speak truth to your spirit before the voices of the world start speaking doubt into your mind. Purpose begins with presence, and presence begins with a moment of stillness, one breath, one decision, one promise to yourself that today you will begin differently. There is power in slowing down, in opening your eyes and not reaching for your phone, but for your heart, in listening not to the world's demands, but your soul's desires, in honoring the fact that you are not a machine, you are a living, breathing, feeling being. And you deserve to start your day with love, not lack, with purpose, not panic. Some people will say they don't have time, that they're too busy to start slow, too overwhelmed to be intentional. But the truth is, you can't afford not to. A few minutes of calm in the morning can prevent hours of chaos later. A moment of stillness can bring clarity to confusion. A single intentional thought can redirect the entire course of your day. Purpose is not about adding more. It's about being more present with what already is. Think of the last time you had a truly peaceful morning. Maybe it was on vacation or during a rare weekend when everything felt right. You remember it, don't you? Not because it was filled with productivity, but because it was filled with presence. That kind of morning is possible more often than you think. It just requires a choice, a decision to stop letting the world dictate your pace and start leading your life with intention. Your day doesn't have to begin with stress. It can begin with gratitude. It can begin with silence. It can begin with a question that awakens your purpose instead of your panic. What am I here to do today? Who can I love today? What truth can I live today? These are the seeds of a meaningful life, and they are planted one morning at a time. When you start your day with purpose, you carry yourself differently. You walk into rooms with presence. You speak with more clarity. You listen with more compassion. You make decisions from a place of alignment, not anxiety. You become less reactive to the noise and more connected to your own rhythm. That's what daily purpose does. It brings you back to yourself over and over again, and no one else can give this to you. It's a gift only you can offer yourself. It doesn't require permission. It doesn't require perfection. It only requires presence. So tomorrow, when you open your eyes, ask yourself not what the world wants from you, but what your soul needs from you, and let that question guide everything else. There is a quiet war happening within each of us every single day. It's the war between fear and wisdom, between insecurity and insight, between what the world tells us and what we truly know deep within. Most of us are not losing this war because we are weak. We're losing it because we are unknowingly feeding the wrong side. The mind is a garden. What you plant will grow, and every word you hear, every image you consume, every thought you entertain. These are the seeds you water. The tragedy is not that we are afraid. The tragedy is that we are taught to keep feeding our fear until it becomes so loud that we can't even hear the whisper of our own wisdom. Fear is not always dramatic. Sometimes it's disguised as caution, as hesitation, as the familiar voice in your head that says, "What if you fail? What if they laugh? What if you're not good enough?" And because we hear that voice so often, we begin to believe it must be true. But it's not. It's just repeated. Fear grows in repetition, and every time you feed it with doubt, with comparison, with negative self-talk, it becomes stronger. Not because it deserves to be, but because you keep choosing it, often without realizing. Feeding your mind is not just about knowledge, it's about intention. It's about being mindful of what you allow to enter your internal world. Because what you feed your mind will become your inner voice. And your inner voice becomes the way you speak to yourself when no one is watching. That voice decides whether you step forward or stay stuck, whether you try again or give up, whether you walk with confidence or crumble in fear. Every day we scroll through endless noise, headlines designed to provoke panic, images designed to spark comparison, opinions crafted to divide, and slowly, without meaning to, we begin to carry the weight of a world that was never ours to hold. We absorb other people's fears, judgments, limitations. We carry the heaviness of things that don't belong to us, all because we let them in through our eyes and ears. This is why you must be intentional. You must protect your mind the way you protect your home. You wouldn't invite strangers into your living room and allow them to throw garbage around. So why do we allow careless content to live in our minds rent-free? Feeding your mind is a sacred responsibility. Read words that elevate you. Listen to voices that remind you of your worth. Surround yourself, online and offline, with energy that encourages growth. The truth is, the world is already loud with fear. You don't need to echo it. You need to rise above it, and rising begins with what you're choosing to consume. There are people who think that motivation is temporary, that inspiration is a momentary high. And maybe that's true if you only seek it once in a while. But what if it became your daily practice? What if feeding your mind was as consistent as brushing your teeth or drinking water? What if every morning, instead of scrolling through negativity, you listened to something that nourished your hope? What if every night, instead of drowning in worry, you read something that reminded you who you are? These small choices become powerful habits. These habits become your mindset, and your mindset becomes your reality. It's not about pretending fear doesn't exist. It does, and it has a place. Fear can protect you. It can signal danger, but it should not lead your life. Fear can sit in the passenger seat, but it should never drive. And to make sure it doesn't, you have to intentionally feed the voice that's wiser, calmer, stronger. The voice that says, "You've made it through worse." The voice that says, "You are learning, not failing." The voice that says, "You are allowed to be a work in progress and still be worthy." We live in a world that profits from your insecurity. That sells you the idea that you are not enough unless you buy, achieve, or become something else. But when you feed your mind with truth, you begin to see through the illusion. You begin to realize that your worth is not something you earn. It's something you remember. And remembering requires repetition. You must repeat love louder than fear. You must choose truth even when lies are more popular. You must feed your mind until your inner voice becomes your greatest ally, not your enemy. Think about what you're allowing into your space. What shows are you watching? What books are you reading? Who are you following online? What kind of conversations are you having? These things aren't neutral. They are shaping you, guiding you, slowly becoming part of you. If you constantly hear messages of hopelessness, you begin to feel hopeless. If you constantly hear criticism, you begin to criticize yourself. But if you consistently hear encouragement, you begin to believe in possibility again. You begin to speak differently, act differently, think differently. It's not about being perfect, it's about being conscious. Being awake to the fact that your mind is always listening, that your heart is always absorbing, that your soul is always learning. You don't need to drown yourself in positivity, pretending nothing's wrong. But you do need to surround yourself with truth, with kindness, with depth, because the world will hand you fear every day. It's your job to choose whether you accept it. You are not weak for feeling fear, but you become powerful when you stop feeding it, when you stop giving it your time, your attention, your energy. You are powerful when you choose a different voice to believe, a voice of compassion, a voice of courage, a voice of reason. That voice exists within you. And every time you feed your mind with wisdom, you amplify it. You give it strength, you let it lead. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, ask yourself, what have I been feeding my mind? Is it truth or fear? Is it possibility or limitation? Is it love or judgment? And then gently, without shame, choose again. Choose better. Choose what heals, not what hurts. Choose what builds, not what breaks. Choose what reminds you of who you are, not what makes you forget. That's the quiet power of feeding your mind with intention. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, but over time it transforms everything. Gratitude is often mistaken for something that only belongs to the good days. It is often talked about as a reaction to abundance, to joy, to visible blessings. But the real essence of gratitude, the kind that transforms lives, isn't found on the mountaintops. It is forged in the valleys. True gratitude doesn't just bloom in sunlight. It roots itself in the darkest soil where pain and loss try to suffocate hope. It is easy to say thank you when everything is going well. It takes something much deeper, much more courageous, to whisper those same words when your world feels like it's falling apart. There is a strange kind of wisdom in learning to be grateful even when life has not been kind. Not because the pain disappears, not because the circumstances change instantly, but because gratitude shifts something inside you. It doesn't erase the hardship, but it softens its edges. It doesn't make your problems disappear, but it gives you a different lens to view them. When everything hurts and you still choose to find something, anything to be grateful for, you reclaim your power. You are no longer a prisoner of your pain. You become a sculptor of your own strength. Gratitude in hard times isn't denial, it's defiance. It's standing tall in front of everything that went wrong and still saying, "You didn't take all of me." It's looking at the wreckage and noticing the single flower that grew through the cracks. It's remembering that your heart still beats, that your lungs still breathe, and that within you remains something unbreakable, even if everything around you is broken. There is something profoundly healing about acknowledging the ache and still choosing to honor the light. Sometimes gratitude feels too big. When life is heavy, it's hard to list blessings or count joys. But it doesn't have to be grand. It can be found in the simplest things: a warm cup of tea in shaky hands, the sound of rain outside when your mind is loud, the comfort of a friend's voice when your spirit is tired. Gratitude is not about pretending that pain doesn't exist. It's about seeing that beauty and pain often live side by side. It's about understanding that you can be hurting and healing at the same time. We are conditioned to think that life owes us comfort, happiness, clarity. And when those things are missing, we assume something has gone terribly wrong. But maybe life isn't about avoiding pain. Maybe it's about learning to see differently while we're in it. Gratitude teaches you to pause and recognize what is still standing when everything else has collapsed. It asks you to pay attention, not to what is missing, but to what remains, and what remains is often enough to begin again. Pain has a way of narrowing our focus. It convinces us that our entire existence is the hurt we're experiencing. But gratitude gently expands that focus. It reminds you that alongside the sorrow there is still softness, that even in heartbreak your heart still knows how to beat, that even when things are taken away you are left with the resilience to continue. Gratitude doesn't need everything to be perfect. It only needs your presence, your willingness to see through the storm and notice that the sky hasn't given up on you yet. When you begin to practice gratitude in the difficult moments, something in you begins to shift. You stop looking for happiness as a destination and start recognizing it as a way of seeing. You begin to understand that life isn't just happening to you. It's happening for you even when it hurts. Gratitude doesn't ask you to ignore your grief. It invites you to carry it with grace, to honor the lessons, the strength, and the quiet growth that only pain can teach. You might not be thankful for the pain itself, but you can be thankful for what it teaches, for the compassion it builds, for the clarity it brings, for the way it strips away everything false and brings you back to what's real. Pain often reveals what truly matters. It shows you who you are beneath the surface. And when you find even a sliver of gratitude within that experience, you unlock a kind of peace that can't be shaken. Gratitude is not always a loud declaration. Sometimes it's a soft whisper through tears, a silent nod to the sky, a deep breath after a long cry. It is the way you keep showing up, even when everything in you wants to hide. It is the strength to say, "This is hard, but I'm still here, and there is still something to hold on to." That small shift can change everything, not just how you feel, but how you live. The people who live with deep gratitude are not the ones who have had the easiest lives. They are often the ones who have endured the most. But they made a choice, a quiet, powerful choice to see the good even in the midst of sorrow. They learned to hold joy and pain in the same hand, and in doing so, they discovered a life that is richer, fuller, more meaningful than one defined by ease alone. You don't have to be grateful for everything that happened to you. Some things were unfair, some things should never have happened, but even in the aftermath, you can choose to be grateful for the fact that you survived, that you are still capable of love, that your story is still unfolding. Gratitude doesn't mean you're glad it hurt. It means you're thankful you made it through, and maybe that's the truest kind of strength. Not the kind that comes from never falling, but the kind that rises again with gentleness and grace and says, "I'm still here. I still see the light. I still believe there is beauty left, even if I have to look a little harder to find it." Gratitude is how we honor that belief. It's how we stay grounded when life tries to uproot us. It's how we remember that even when it hurts, there is still something good, something real, something worth holding on to. We often imagine transformation as something grand, a dramatic moment, a sudden change, a wave of inspiration that sweeps in and changes everything overnight. But the truth is, real transformation rarely arrives with fireworks. It happens slowly, gently, through the quiet, consistent choice to take one small step, even when it feels like nothing is changing. We are not shaped by the big moments alone. We are shaped by the small, daily decisions that we make in silence when no one is watching. The promise of progress is not in how far you run, but in your willingness to keep moving forward, one tiny, determined step at a time. It is so easy to get discouraged when we don't see results right away. When we start something new, our hearts are often filled with energy and hope, but life has a way of testing our consistency. The path becomes tiring, the goal seems too far, and we begin to wonder if we are even making a difference. But progress is not always visible. Growth is not always loud. Sometimes it's hidden underground, like roots growing in the dark before anything appears above the surface. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. Every effort matters. Every small step counts. We live in a world obsessed with fast results. We want quick fixes, instant success, overnight achievements. But that's not how meaningful change works. It's built through repetition, through the discipline of showing up even when we don't feel like it, through the courage to keep going even when we're tired, afraid, or unsure. Taking small steps every day is not about being perfect. It's about being committed. Committed to your growth, to your healing, to your purpose. No matter how slowly it unfolds. Some days your small step might be getting out of bed when your heart is heavy. Other days it might be writing one sentence, taking one walk, drinking one glass of water, speaking one kind word to yourself. These may not seem like much, but they are everything, because they are acts of resistance against giving up. They are proof that you are still trying, still believing, still moving forward. You may not be where you want to be yet, but you are further than you were yesterday, and that matters more than you know. There is power in consistency, power in routine, power in discipline, and yet we often undervalue these things because they don't offer immediate reward. But the people who change their lives, the people who rise above their circumstances, are not always the most talented, the most lucky, or the most confident. They are the ones who refused to quit, the ones who kept taking steps, even when the road was lonely, unclear, and hard. There is something extraordinary about ordinary people doing the ordinary things consistently, because eventually those ordinary things stack up to something beautiful and life-changing. When you take small steps every day, you begin to build trust with yourself. You prove to yourself that you are capable of following through, and that trust becomes the foundation of your confidence. You don't need to wait for motivation. You don't need to feel inspired every day. You just need to show up. Over time, those small steps begin to rewire your brain. They reshape your habits. They build a version of you that is resilient, focused, and aligned with your goals, not because of one big leap, but because of 1,000 little ones. Sometimes the hardest part is simply beginning. The step feels too small to matter, or the gap between where you are and where you want to be seems too wide. But all journeys start with a single step. And that first step, however uncertain, is the most important. It sends a message to your heart. I'm ready, I'm willing, I'm trying. And that message is far more powerful than waiting for the perfect moment, because the perfect moment rarely arrives. Life doesn't always wait for you to feel ready. It rewards you for starting anyway. There will be days when you feel like nothing is changing. Days when progress is invisible. Days when you feel like giving up would be easier. But if you can remind yourself why you started, if you can hold on to the vision even when the results are slow, you will make it through. Growth is not a straight line. It's a winding path of effort, failure, learning, and small victories. And every single step along that path teaches you something important about who you are and what you're capable of. Even when your steps are small, you are moving. Even when your pace is slow, you are not standing still. You are choosing growth, choosing courage, choosing to keep trying in a world that so often tells you to settle. You are proving that it is not the pace that defines success, it is the persistence. It is the heart behind the action. The willingness to begin again, even after falling, the choice to keep showing up, even after being disappointed. That is what builds a better life. That is what shapes a stronger you. The world may not always notice your small steps. There may be no applause, no validation, no recognition, but your soul notices, your heart feels the difference, your spirit begins to rise, because with every step you are writing a new story, a story not built on perfection, but on perseverance, not written in grand gestures, but in steady progress. And one day you will look back and realize that every small choice, every quiet effort, every moment of doubt you overcame, was leading you exactly where you were meant to go. No one becomes great in a day. No one heals overnight. No one rewrites their story without struggle. But those who keep going, who embrace the small steps, who honor their progress even when it's invisible, those are the ones who rise. They rise because they learn that change doesn't come from waiting. It comes from walking one step, then another and another, until one day they look around and see that they've arrived somewhere beautiful. Not because they rushed, but because they endured. And that endurance was built, not by the miles they ran, but by the small steps they never stopped taking.